I should introduce my colleague Meg, and then I know Martha will be joining us later to talk about home mods. So Meg, I don't know if you want to quickly introduce yourself, and Martha can introduce herself, and then we can continue.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Meg McCann. I'm the TA coordinator here at MRC. Martha?
Sorry, I was on mute. Hello, everyone. I'm Martha Quirk. I am managing all of the home and vehicle modifications for the waiver program and the demo program at MRC.
Thank you both. And I'm Ben Jackson again, Waiver Business Improvement Partner. And again, along with Meg, we help run the transitional assistance program through MRC. And we'll start off by talking about that service first.
Ben, sorry to interrupt. Elizabeth on our team is here, so we just want to give her a chance to. Elizabeth, if you want to introduce yourself. And I don't know if we want to just make reference that Jennifer and Eileen are here from the project office. So Elizabeth, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Elizabeth Sanabria, and I'm the TA Office Support Specialist for MRC.
Great. And Jennifer, Eileen, you guys want to just say hello?
Yeah, hello. This is Jennifer Reed, the Assistant Project Director for the MFP Demonstration Grant. Eileen?
Hi, my name is Eileen Gametto. I am the MFP Demonstration Operations and Eligibility Manager.
Great, thanks. Back to you, Ben.
Well, thank you, Meg. I think it's important. Again, we are all here for support. It takes a village. And so we're very lucky to have some wonderful people in that village. And thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves and being part of our team here. So again, transitional assistance, we're going to refer to it as TA for short, is a service that traditionally individuals on those HCBS waivers would use, but also is now a service for folks that are enrolled in the MFP demo waiver. It has two main functions as a service. Firstly, it's the mechanism we use to help eligible individuals in restrictive settings like skilled nursing facilities find housing in a person-centered process to meet their needs in less restrictive settings. So finding housing is the first function. The second function is it's a purchasing mechanism to help those individuals who found housing either in the community or residential group home to pay for furniture, clothing, other necessary items for household setup. So those are the two main functions. So we're going to talk a little bit about the process for transitional assistance, and then we're going to show you what you would do in that case manager role as a service coordinator when you're working with transitional assistance. So a little bit about the process. How you use TA services will depend on the type of housing needs of the individual served. So if they need the support of a residential group home, you would find placement the way you typically do, and then start the referral process as needed for evaluations, staff training, and really items that need to be purchased for their home, and mostly usually the room setup in the case of a group home. For an individual that's moving back to a family home, they would assist with furniture item purchasing as well, but you don't really need that housing search piece. This is also, again, another plug for Martha's team. That's a great time to look into whether they have accessibility barriers that could be resolved through another demo service, home modifications. There are going to be some folks that you work with who need to find housing in the community, and they will receive assistance with this search through TA, and including gathering core documents that they need to get those housing opportunities. And those are going to be things that show proof of identification and proof of income and assets. So things like Social Security card, Mass ID, birth certificate, benefit letters, bank statements, passports, and things of that nature. Then the TAs would assist with them in applying for housing. So submitting housing applications, maybe meeting with the landlord, making sure the furniture is purchased, delivered, and set up. The TA may be able to help pay for some of those costs that have become barriers to acquiring housing, which will differ depending on whether they're one of those HCBS waivers only or whether they're enrolled in demo. So it's important to make note of that. The folks that are in demo will get a few more things in addition to what those folks on the HCBS waivers traditionally would get. So once the individual's needs are assessed, the process starts by submitting a referral, a TA referral, which we will show you shortly, to a TA provider's referral contacts. We will also share a list of those providers and their contacts where you would send that referral, typically by email. The list is broken down into 3 sections. So I wonder if I can share that really quickly here with you. So this is essentially what our list looks like. And you will see that there's a list of the agency on the left. And if you scroll to the right, there will be contacts for those agencies. There's a primary and a secondary, and these are for making the referrals. You're going to see that there's kind of 3 tabs here. There is one section that's essentially for residential TAs, the one on the far right. Those are TAs that typically only provide support for purchasing, usually for their own residential group home. Another section is listed as TA providers, 2023, 2026. That's what we're looking at now. And that's for the TAs that also typically assist with housing search in addition to purchasing. And there's a 3rd tab in there that's listed as HSE providers. In order to avoid confusion, we won't really be focusing on that service. It's another specific service for demo eligible individuals. But please note that these are TA providers that are also eligible to receive that type of referral, and it relates to similar work to what's being provided through TA, just without the purchasing. So if you are asked about a housing search entity or HSC referral from a provider, or you have questions about that, please reach out to Meg or I as needed. We're here to be supports for everyone in this process. So we'll stop sharing that. Let's see, there's a question. Okay. So once a referral is submitted to a TA provider, they have 2 business days to either accept or reject the referral. Oops, excuse me. For accept or accept the referral. You may submit referrals to multiple agencies, but if you do that, it's important to make sure you withdraw the referrals once your referral has been accepted. The provider will take that information from the referral. They're going to guesstimate costs for the work with that individual, and they're going to take the allowable hours from that referral, and they're going to create what we call an initial TA plan. They'll be sent to you as a service coordinator in what we call the case manager role for review and approval. And once the provider receives that approved initial TA plan, that's their go-ahead to begin the work with the individual. So we're going to be showing you that TA plan, and we're going to go through it with you, but know that most of the work on that plan is going to be done on the provider side. It's as the case manager role, you are going to be there to review it, and you want to ask questions. Communication is going to be the key to this process working. So it's essentially, we think of it as like a plan of care for TA services, in that it shows the provider what is allowable to bill up to, and if they need additional costs covered or service hours, they would reach out to you in that service coordinator case manager role with a modified plan request for you to review and hopefully approve. So again, just kind of finishing up the process, when individual transitions to the community, the provider will submit a final TA plan for you to review and approve. It's important for me to emphasize that you should CC Meg on that final TA plan email. And it's also important for me to emphasize that the service coordinator is responsible for ensuring that the items that the TAs purchased, that they've listed as purchased on that plan, have been delivered and set up prior to approving that final TA plan. A provider should finalize the purchasing 60 days following the transition to the housing setting. and they need to close it out within 90 days following a transition. So if an individual is enrolled in the demo waiver, they can qualify to submit a new referral for TA services at any time during their active 365 days in the community. However, most individuals should have all of their household setup needs met within that first 90 days post-transition is what we expect. So again, just a reminder that when you do this, this is a person-centered process with the individual in the lead. You form a team as the service coordinator case manager with the TA provider who is assigned and the individual served, and it's important to communicate. And if you have questions about what they're requesting more hours for, it's important that you ask those questions and you discuss what your expectations are and how they align with that individual's needs and the goals for their housing search. So and I'll share one more document, and then we'll get into the TA plan. And so this is the referral. So it says MRC. You can ignore that. That's because it goes through MRC. We have ASAPs using similar referral, but you will see it's important. See if I can zoom in a little bit more. It's important here to put some of the demographic information, and very important at the top here to make sure you check off the appropriate waivers so that the provider knows the restrictions on what they're working with. Like I mentioned, folks that are enrolled in demo can access a little bit more than what's allowable with just folks that are on some of the other waivers listed here. So that's an important piece to note of. You're going to put your information, you're going to put their information. If you have a projected community living situation, great, you want to put it in here. If you don't, because your individual needs to search for housing still, that's okay. Down here, it's very important where you put down hours. We're going to get into this part a little bit more in the TA plan, but transition plan development hours are specifically hours the provider can use for working on that TA plan. It's a max out of 10. So they can't request more than that throughout the lifetime of your work with the individual. So that's important to note that. Again, direct service hours talks a little bit about what those are versus housing search hours. Here's what you put in for initial thresholds. The plan can always be modified where the provider asks you for more hours, and they should be able to justify how they've used the hours so far when they make those requests. And if you have questions about what they're listing down there, it's a good point to talk to them about it. So the typical guidance for starting this is usually about 40 direct service hours and about 20 housing search hours. We'll go down. If there's any specific things that you note that might happen, you would click those off. Need an evaluation for something specific. Certain utilities need to be paid for, and they have demo, things like that. Any type of housing search support. And then there's some things that are down here specifically for demo that are also listed on this referral. So if you know any of that in advance, check it off. If you don't put it on here, it shouldn't restrict the provider from doing that work, but they might need to modify that initial plan so that they can get your approval in writing so they can continue to do their work, knowing that they're going to get reimbursed for the services they're providing. So, Meg, I don't know, I've spoken, I don't know if there's anything I missed or you want to speak to.
Nope, I think that was great. Maybe we'll just see if
Okay.
anyone has any questions. I don't see any in the chat. All right.
Okay. So with that, yep, sorry, Meg.
Yeah, turn over to me. Okay, thank you, Ben. So one thing I want to just mention before I start going into the TA plan is that I want to make sure that everyone is aware of how to enroll someone into the demonstration. Basically, like the people that you're working with now, if they are interested in enrolling into the demo, you're going to want to fill out an informed consent form. And following this training, we'll send out the referral form, the informed consent form, the TA plan, and the PowerPoint, everything for you to have access to. I'm going to share my screen, and if everyone already knows this, please disregard, but it's important part of this process. So let's see. So this is the informed consent. So this is what you would want to fill out. This gets sent to the Mass Health Office in Quincy, and then the eligibility is reviewed, and once the person becomes eligible, then they would be notified. And then really at that time, that's where you would be able to put in the referral. So we don't want to have you put in any referrals until the person has, yep, Jennifer, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify the
Yep.
informed consent, and we can send out the most current version. Is the informed consent doesn't get sent to anyone. It actually will go into their system in MFPIS. So
Okay.
that's where the information will go once an individual is chosen to enroll in the program. It's not till the individual is in the MFPIS system that we then pull a report to send to Mass Health for the verification check. I just wanted to point that out because I didn't want people sending us the informed consents.
That
Yes, so they keep it in their record for supporting documentation.
So then, sorry, Jennifer, thank you for jumping in here. I probably should just stick to the stuff that I'm supposed to focus on, but I just really was trying to emphasize the point that we don't want to have them send referrals until someone is on the demo or has become demo eligible. So what is the form that they then would send if they want to enroll someone into the demonstration?
So there are two different processes. I think with the DDS ID service coordinators that are on the phone, they would either identify themselves, an individual, talk about the program, and then sign them up. Anyone else outside the agency can send the project office a referral form that's on the website. It would come to us and we would assign a case management entity. So it could go to DDS, it could go to MRC, but I think for the purposes of this presentation, that once an informed consent, that date's in there, is what you guys would be able to use to indicate if someone's on the demo or not. And I think, Tim, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Jen, and thanks, Meg. Meg, I'm glad you mentioned it because for the DDS service coordinators on the call, I think it is helpful just for them to be clear that the person has to be enrolled in the MFP demo before they can actually, access the TA or the home and vehicle modifications that are available through the demo. But just for the DDS service coordinators, if you go to DDS Learning website, there's an MFP demo section. And there's a training there, a PowerPoint slide deck that Jen and Eileen and John from their team presented on a few weeks ago. And I did a short part of that presentation. And that slide deck has also, it shows the process for what you should do if you have someone who you think could benefit from being enrolled in the MFP demo. And then you basically send the informed consent and the MFP demo referral form go to your regional ABI MFP director and program coordinator, and they will enter the information into the MFPIS. So that if you have trouble finding that information, just email me, timothy.cahill@mass.gov. I'm happy to get you that information, but it is on DDS Learning. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Thanks, Tim. So listen to that, not what I said. All right, so we're going to go over the TA form. So this is the TA plan. There's many different tabs on this worksheet, and so we'll go through them all. So the first is just the instructions. I'm not going to go through it. You can go through it at your leisure, but it really just explains the different subsections of the TA plan. This is the first page, the worksheet page. As a service coordinator, you will fill out this section with all of the demographic information excuse me. And then you're going to want to select if the person is demo only or if they're demo and IDDD. And you'll want to, if there is not a projected transition date, if you can sort of have, you can leave that blank until you have sort of an estimate of when that may be. Or if you do have a date that is tentative, you can put that there. The plan version. So there's different versions of the plan. The initial plan is the plan that you send over to the provider initially, right? And then as the plan develops, then it would, and if there are any changes from what's on the initial plan, you would then change it to a modified plan. And then at the end, when the work has been done, all the purchasing, then that's when the plan would be in the final version. And that's the part in which you would send it to me, and then my signature is needed. And then that's at that time, the plan will then close. So you'll see here the staff hours or the different options. So there's transition plan development to 10 hours. This calculates, which is good. Direct service hours. This is really going to be the majority, up to 40 hours. And then if there's more hours that are needed, a provider would request more, you would approve as, as the plan develops. Participant specific staff training, that is used in situations, and it's on a different tab, and we'll go look at that later, actually. Housing search for the population that y'all are working with. Seems as though the majority of these individuals will be going into group homes. So housing search really in most situations would not be applicable. And then additional hours, if there are any additional hours outside of, this is not really used very often because it usually just goes into the direct service hours, but that is also an option. Participant transportation. So if you, and this is, the trips are considered, so like trips is considered one way. So 2 trips would be round trip. So it's not like one trip is there and back. It's the trip is each way. So this would be a situation where you're working with a provider, your individual is interested in going and looking at the group home, and then the provider would pay for the transportation and then submit for reimbursement through MRC. Evaluations and assessments, that's where the cost of this would also go. The information is actually entered on the additional information tab, which I will also look at. We'll also look at it at a later time. The next section is for purchases. So there is a threshold for the different subsections. So it's bedroom, living room, and kitchen, and essential personal items. For this population, we're really just focusing on the bedroom and the essential personal items. And so really in the group home or in that sort of setting, anything that would be personalized to that individual, so the bedroom, furniture, lamps, anything that, that the individual needs for their specific room. So a lot of times our providers will just put the $5,000 and then, the service coordinator will sign off on it. And then the provider knows that that's the amount that they have within to spend. And then there's also this section where there's gift card purchases. That information would go there, and the cost. I'm sorry. And then it all calculates. Does anyone have any questions about this section before I continue on? No. Okay. So the next section is additional direct service and housing hours. And this is really where the staff training and the rates are. You'll see that these are where you would put, like if it was a direct care worker, if it was clinician, whatever the training is for, say like the group home, they're moving into a group home and the staff are being trained on safety. The provider would put the hours in here, and then it will calculate the rates. So when providers send in their billing and they put on what's called the service delivery form, what the hours that they are billing for and any purchasing or services, we reconcile against the information that's on the TA plan. So it's important that the provider is letting you know about what the anticipated training is and what the costs are for you to approve. The next section is the provider staff activity log. This is a very key part of the plan because the providers are responsible to track any of the hours and the work that they're doing with the provider, and that so you have access to it. So if it is that they went to a transition meeting, they went to the group home, they went shopping, for any work that they were doing tied to the individual, they need to put here. And again, this is when they bill, we cross-reference the information here, but really this is for you as a service coordinator to have a reference of what is going on with the plan outside of the conversations that you may be having with the transition coordinator from the provider agency. So modification log, so this is where the provider would put any sort of modifications. Say it was that, I don't know, that they needed additional hours or they needed something, like they needed something beyond, like say that there was a need, this individual really has, there was a need for something more than the $2,000 under the essential items. Like if the service coordinator approves, say, another $100 over that, that's where this information would be put on this modification section. So this next tab is a list of allowable transitional assistance costs, non-allowable costs for TA, and allowable costs with justification. So this is for what our regular waiver service, but there also is another tab that you will see that the demonstration covers in addition to regular TA. So anything under regular TA is covered under the demo, but there's only certain items that are demo specific. So it's important that before making any purchases, that it's confirmed that the person is indeed enrolled into the demonstration. Here is a list of some of the things that are covered under the demonstration. Some of this, majority of this does not apply because they're going into a residential section, but there are humidifiers, there's a television, so if your individual is in need of a television, you would put the cost here, and then the plan accumulates the cost. You'll see where I put in the hours, the direct service hours, and went against the total plan cost. So on this TA authorization page, this is where the agency name, the TA contact would be, and the participant's name, and then your name. On here is where you as a service coordinator would sign and date and then send back to the provider. This is what the provider sends into bill in a PDF version. You'll see that there are different levels where for plans that are over $16,000, the supervisor signature is required. And then for plans over $20,000, it really is a manager signature is needed. This section, the MRC final authorization signature, that would be where my signature would go. So once the plan is final, you would send a copy of this to me in a PDF form, and then I would sign.
Thank you, Megan. Megan, do you mind if I go over a couple more quick things there with the TA plan?
Yep, sure. Thanks.
Okay, hold on. I just want to go over and highlight a few quick additional things, and Meg did a wonderful job. So for when it comes again on this worksheet tab, this additional information for additional hours is not coming here. It's coming from this additional information tab, this row 9. This is where they're putting in those hours. You don't have to see that, but just so you know, because as the case manager, one thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be reviewing and you're going to be asking, well, what am I looking for, right? And so you want to know that they're asking for additional hours. The modification optimization log, they should be telling you kind of why they're making this request for more hours, so you have an understanding. I've used up my hours for housing search. I need more. Still haven't found housing. We've applied to this many places. it should kind of give a narrative. Just like the main thing you're going to be reviewing is this tab, the provider staff activity log. So this is where there's categories. They should put down the category plan development, direct service housing. And then depending what category you put down here, there might be additional categories for activities that for what they're doing. If you scrolled all the way down, I guess this might take me a little while to get there. I think it's row 113, something like that. At the bottom here, you'll see a listing of the hours that have been used. So you can compare that to the hours that have been approved. And you can say, I gave you 20 hours of housing search, you've used 18. This should be a narrative so that when whoever picks this up should have an understanding of how these hours are being used by the provider. And it provides discussion points too. So you can say, we've had 18 hours of housing search, we approved 20, but I only see 3 housing applications. And you have a discussion. Why is that? What are the barriers you're running into? Were these meetings that you were putting down, were they productive meetings? Did they lead to outcomes that align with the individual's goals in finding housing? Why not? Here's the expectation if we approve these next 20 hours, what we think should happen a little bit differently. And so it's a discussion point. And this is the part where you're really reviewing as the service coordinator to when they make those requests for additional hours to see if everything makes sense and if it aligns again with the goals that you're working on in a person-centered way. So just wanted to repoint that out. And then one more thing I wanted to show you was the last part Meg was just speaking about, this TA plan authorization page, just to show you, Meg did a great job going over this. This total up here, total plan cost, is where the total cost of the plan is going to pop up. That's what you're going to use to compare to these numbers to see whether or not you need a supervisor level or another level of approval. The TA needs a PDF of this page returned to them with an e-signature on it. That's their approval. So in order to show you how to do that, what you would do is when you're on this TA plan authorization tab, you should be able to go here to File. And if you go down, there's going to be an Export button here. If you click on that, there's going to be this nice little, hopefully, Create Adobe PDF button. You'd click that. It's going to ask you some additional questions. You save it. I'm not going to do it live for you because it takes a few seconds. But if you can see this now, this is essentially what it would look like as the PDF. When you have it in a PDF, there's going to be this little purple fill-in sign option. If you click on that, it should give you this option at the top where it says, for example, sign yourself. If there's a plus sign.
Sorry, we lost you.
Sorry.
We're just still looking. We're still looking at the page, but maybe they know how to.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Meg. I'll go back. I'll switch over. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Hopefully you can see this now. This is the Adobe version. Okay, so there's this purple pen on the side. If you right here on the right column, if you click on that, they'll give you this option here for sign yourself. You click on that, and it will give you an option where you can add your signature using the plus sign. You can draw it out and save it. When you do that, you can grab it like that, and you can put it down where the line is here. And then the date part should be fillable like so. And then you save that and you're good to send this out back to the provider, and that's their approval they take to do the work. So I'll stop sharing. So again, I just wanted to go over those few extra points, but that's essentially the process itself. It's a long process where you work with this individual until they reach their goals. And again, if you have questions along the way, Meg, Elizabeth, and I are there. You can always reach out to us at any point.
Yeah, just to add, thanks, Ben. We have some real great providers, and they're familiar with the TA program. They're familiar now with the demonstration and working with ASAP. So we are obviously a resource, but really the providers really are trained to know what they're doing. So they also can be a support to you as well. Does anyone have any questions before we send it over to Martha? All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, Ben. All right, Martha, you're up.
Okay, good afternoon, old friends, new friends. I'm here today to just give a quick review on home modifications and how MRC supports DDS in this role. So when we're talking about DDS home modifications, we are looking to consumers that are shared living, adult foster care. We're not doing large scale home modifications on residential homes. That's handled, with the funding in a different manner. However, if you have consumers that are in shared living, adult foster care situations that need any type of barrier removal, ramps, grab bars, roll-in showers, widening doorways. We also have an extensive list of adaptive equipment available. If you're looking at wall-mounted lifts, stair glides, vertical platform lifts on the exterior. This is all the type of equipment that we can provide for any DDS consumer going into a shared living or adult foster care situation. We've done several successful projects in the past under Tim Cahill for the first round of demo consumers, and sporadically over the last 10 years, we've had very successful projects, and we're at the point now where we can do them quickly for you. So if you come across a consumer that has a physical barrier at the unit that they're going to transition into, the quickest way is to get me involved very early on. We like to do any type of construction while people are not in the home, prior to transition, if we have the opportunity to do that. If you are looking at minor modifications, so say there's something that's $5,000 or less. If they just need an ADA toilet, if they need a wall-mounted sink, grab bars, something that we can do relatively quickly, we will execute those for you within 2 to 3 weeks. So it's a quick turnaround time. We do not have to deal with permitting. We do not have to deal with inspections or going out to bid. So we can very quickly turn around those minor modifications for you. Now, when we get into major modifications, it's a little more involved from a construction standpoint because we do have to apply for permits. We have to order specific materials. We also are subjected to local and state building inspectors. So not all of the timelines are within our control at MRC. So you have to plan a little bit longer period of time, maybe more like 8 to 10 weeks if you're looking at consumers that need structural modifications to the unit or any other type of equipment that comes in. So how do we communicate and what is the process? When you have identified a need, please fill out a referral form, and it's specific to home mods. Ben, maybe we have one, or if not, Meg, maybe I can attach it to your email when we're following up with all of the templates that are needed to communicate between our agencies. So on that referral form, it's very simple. It's 2 pages. You're going to give us your information. You're going to give us your consumer's information. And then we're also going to ask you for the property information. We need to know the ownership of this property. We always require a signature authorization before we attempt to do any type of construction. So when I receive your referral, I'm going to assign an MRC project coordinator. I have 3 that cover the entire state. They will call you right away. They'll talk to you about the information on that form. They'll introduce themselves. They will call the property owner. They will establish a time to do an initial site evaluation and to develop a scope of work. So that's going to be another 1-page document that has a written list of the construction that we think we need to do at this unit to make it accessible and, again, customized to your individual's specific medical needs, mobility needs, if you will. So when we receive that referral from you, it will be assigned within 24 hours to an MRC project coordinator. They're going to call you again within a day or two, and then they're going to talk to the property owner within a day or two. You will be invited to that initial site evaluation if you'd like to meet the project coordinators on location to have input on what type of work you want to see done at this location. If not, we can manage the communication through phone and email. So at that initial site evaluation, we're going to take into consideration a $50,000 lifetime limit for that individual. We're going to look at immediate needs. So we have a hierarchy. We look at that initial point of access. We want to make sure we can get someone comfortably in and out of the unit. Once they're inside the unit, we're going to deal with the bathroom first. How can we easily get someone into the bathroom, and can they operate in there independently? Can they shower and toilet themselves? If possible, these are the goals that we're trying to match to actual construction. And the vehicle to do that is all through this scope of work. Once that has been finalized, I use that same document to go out for pricing. So all of our contractors will be asked to submit a price and to also submit timelines, a start date and a completion date. So very early on in the project, you will know how much we're going to spend, when we're going to start, and what is the estimated completion date, so that you can plan the transition for this particular individual. What else? What else can I tell you on home mods? Any specific questions on the process? Anything I'm missing, Ben or Meg or Jen?
I think you did a great job, Martha. It's in Home Mods is such a wonderful program, and your team does such a great job. I think that it's important just to remember, to check in. I think, communication is always great. If you think that there's a need, I know Martha, like your team's really good about going out and just doing evaluations. And like you said, you can be there with them, you can go through, you can just kind of see what's eligible to be modified. And I have the referral. If you want me to share it, we can always share it after, but I know the questions.
It's very straightforward. And after having gone through all the detail on TA, the home mods piece is so simple. It's a 2-page form. You're going to tell us about your consumer's condition. If you can just check off overall if you think you need a ramp. The project coordinators are all licensed construction supervisors. They have excellent relationships with all of the MRC approved contractors. They're going to come in and really do a good job taking a look at your individual consumers' mobility issues, as well as the condition of the property. So they're going to come up with a game plan to make sure that that individual doesn't have any physical barriers getting in and out of this unit. And they'll write that up and keep you abreast of all the timelines associated with it.